by quick way of introduction, Celtra is a creative automation design tool. We have been working with brands for the better parts of 2 decades, focused on scaling their creative design operations so that they can scale in multiple markets, different channels and mediums. We're going to be talking a little bit about technology today, because when we think about technology and advertising, we think about different channels, we think about programmatic and bidding, but we don't always think about creativity. And we've been working closely with Melissa, so we're going to find out a little bit about the Yeti brand, find out a little bit more about what you do from a creative operations, and maybe look into the future as well. So with that, I'll let you kick off on maybe a little bit about what you do at Yeti, and also kind of maybe dig into some of the brand DNA and the guidelines and rules that you follow as a business as it relates to creative.
Sure, yeah. So at Yeti, I am a senior creative director. We have a
Might go a little bit closer.
We have a marketing team. I have about 6 people that sit on my team, but we really work a lot in those consumer-driven moments, like think Father's Day and Mother's Day. So my team is really scaling out those campaigns, running different photo shoots, content, working with Celtra to help us push all of those things out. And when it comes to brand guides, I would say it's really interesting working at Yeti. Our brand guidelines are really more like guideposts, but I feel like that really gives us the ability to flex our brand a whole lot, because there's nothing too sacred about our guidelines. But at the same time, we really are driven by authenticity, and those guidelines are very strong. I'd say one of our biggest things internally that we say is the brand is really about grit and wit, and how do we get that to come across?
Nice. And kind of going with that, I was on the website this morning and I saw the bottom, it just said, "Yes, chef," which I know, going into Yeti in the cooking category, I looked it up. So doing a bit of partnership with the Bear, which I think probably a lot of the audience has watched that very popular show. How do you deal with that with creative, and dealing with some of the cool partnerships like that you're doing? And what do you look for, or what do you hope for as someone working on creative in terms of the partnerships that Yeti does?
Yeah, it's really interesting in a way that I think the way that we're able to expand into those new categories and new markets for us. We really bring a piece of Yeti to those markets versus us trying to fit the markets. So as a creative, that's just such a fun exercise. How do we bring that grit and wit? How do we bring our authenticity to a market versus us just kind of going to market for market's sake? We have a lot of sniff tests internally that they have to pass to kind of keep that authenticity. But yeah, it's been surprising that cookware has been something that we've grown into, but we've always had a really strong culinary side of the brand. And that's been kind of slowly growing. We came out with a French press recently. We were able to work with some really heavy hitters there. So yeah, just kind of growing into that market has been really surprising and fun.
Nice. Yeah. I guess shifting into some of the topic of the title in terms of technology, right? You're talking about authenticity. You're talking about leaning into a new market and trying to bring the brand to that market, not necessarily adapt. But how do you bring in some technology into creative, right? You're trying to maintain authenticity. So if you look at tools like AI, what's that balance that you try to strike in terms of the tools that you use that could better your creative results versus what could potentially hurt the brand?
Yeah, AI's been really fun. We've actually, your note cards are just.
I'm not even going to use them. These are just fake at this point. I'm going to tuck them away. Thanks.
So actually, we're using AI for customization. That's been a really fun plugin for us. We were really wary about it at first. We were like, does this fit the brand? It is a technology that it just doesn't seem maybe authentic to us on its face, but it really has been such a great thing to give people the capability to go online and dream up whatever they'd like to dream up and customize it onto their drinkware. So that's been a really fun use of technology that maybe originally we didn't think would fit with the brand, but has really captured our Yetisons in a great light.
And is there anything that you're fearful of with AI? Like, I mean, I know there's, auto image generating and things, especially as a creative designer. Do you feel fearful of those things, or are you more interested from your end?
Well, actually more interested. I don't think that we're using those tools to necessarily go straight to market with it, but the auto image generating and things like that have actually been such a great tool for us as creatives. I think it really gives us the ability to indulge in a lot of different ideas. The creative process is often messy and you're really like juggling lots of different ideas and iterations of things. And with some of these AI tools, we're really able to create some high fidelity thinking. And then we're also able to bring that high fidelity thinking to people within the company, our stakeholders who maybe aren't as visual as creatives. And it's harder to pitch those ideas when they don't have a really strong visual to look at. So it kind of helps us even along in that process. It gives us a lot more clear feedback. I think about our color campaigns. We usually always kind of put these colors in these really cool environments, and those things are rendered. We have a third party who renders those environments for us. But as we're thinking about those environments and what we want those environments to look like, we are using AI to kind of help us dream it up. And then we're even able to pass that to our third party, and it makes it so much more efficient. They're really able to like capture the mood and the vibe of what we're thinking. So yeah, and Adobe has just so many great AI tools that save me so much time when it comes to extending images and just doing like really simple stuff. It used to be like decoupage, like you'd be taking like something from here and over here and then like photoshopping it together. But now it's just a couple of clicks and it's really nice.
So it sounds like you actually have a decent amount of flexibility and kind of freedom as you're operating. I mean, going from your background, you've been at Yeti for a couple of years now, but comparing to some other experiences, are there things that you're really excited about that Yeti does compared to some of your past experiences with creative?
Yeah, one of the most surprising things at Yeti has been just how idea driven we are, ideas driven and brand centered. I was at agencies in the past, and being in-house and kind of behind the curtain and really close to the business, and a business that really is just so rooted in its authenticity. I feel like us, I wouldn't say we're always like the most streamlined or efficient, because we are very ideas driven. But it's something that I really appreciate because we go through that practice every day when we're thinking of ideas. And our leadership really lets us kind of indulge in what does the brand mean in this moment when we're trying to solve problems.
Is there any areas that you think creative is like pushing the company to go into? I mean, I was thinking about, how you started off as a brand in Austin, maybe a brand in Florida as well, and you try to clearly push into different markets. There may be markets that competitors are a bit stronger in, but is there anything that you think like the creative team is pushing the company in a different direction of?
Yeah, I think the creative team gets really excited about collaborations, as well as I feel like we're always trying to push on. I know we come out with these really lovely colors every season, but what can we do that's more? We also have camo that we drop every now and then, and that is just like so fire. It's just it's crazy how it sells out. So I think the creative team, we're always trying to push, what can we do more that is kind of in these fun realms to get people excited. But I would say generally, the innovation is happening with our engineers and the product designers, and then we're kind of coming in on the back end with our community and marketing team.
Nice. So I wanted to do one thing was just to request, I think on the screen, we have, we had a video that showed some of our stuff. Oh, there it is. So this just gives a little bit of a visual look at what some of the work that we've done with Yeti. And I think you've touched on it a couple times around the colors and stuff that we're putting in. What you see, and really what Celtra and us have been trying to do is repurpose existing product catalogs and be able to push those directly out to social platforms. We moved beyond TikTok and Meta. We actually started doing Google shoppable ads, which I think you were working on as well. So just giving the group a little bit of a look at some of the things that we do. And I guess along those lines of channels, like when you're, I guess, putting ideas like this, are you thinking about channels? Are you thinking like, we're building these for social, we're building these for outdoor, or is it, how do I guess, protect the branding colors? Like, how much does channels come into play?
Channels does. I think we are constantly thinking about like the cognitive load that people are coming up against, and where are they in this moment when they get this TikTok ad or they get this Facebook ad. I think we are calculating that. It's always so hard to stand out. But I do believe kind of with our partnership with y'all, it's been so great because we are really able to use these like stories-driven content that we have and kind of merge that with sales.
And you mentioned community a couple of times. We talked about the brand DNA, and that plays a part into that. So what does, community can mean a lot of things. What does it mean to Yeti? Where does the community really lean into the creative process for you?
Yeah, community is our number one. I think when I was talking about like those sniff tests that we have to pass, community is kind of the front and center of that. But before Yeti was ever even had a marketing team, it was based in storytelling. And this goes back to the founders, Roy and Ryan Cedars. They were part of the fishing community. And that was really important to them to stay authentic to that side of the brand. And I believe that we've really grown that department. We're now we've got culinary, mountain, sports. Now we're doing professional sports, but we have people who sit in all these departments, and they go out, they're boots on the ground. They are signing our ambassadors. They're really making sure that we're growing authentically in those spaces, as well as giving people experiences, and making sure that we're not just coolers and drinkware, but we really are boots on the ground. We care about these communities, and we want people to have experiences.
And I mean, it does seem like the brand has expanded a lot. You said that, the cookware, obviously the hiking, camping, some things have been staples, and just like the mug that I have here, which has Celtra branding, so you can take this away afterwards. But do you find any challenges with the expansion of the business? We were just catching up before, over 800 employees now there. Like, is there any challenges in keeping up with creative, and how do you keep up with the scale of the business, as you branch out into different sectors?
Yeah, there is always challenges. I think what we really try to root ourselves in is breadth. The growing always comes from depth, which is our authenticity. And I think about markets like we got into Austin FC, which was huge for us. So getting into some professional sports, we're also working with the Cowboys over in Dallas. Those things just, when we heard them on face value at first, we're just like, how how, but it always does come back to how do we bring Yeti to this market? How do we bring us to this market? And our bench of leadership really helps us along with that and supports us in staying true to who we are, but also being able to go out and do these things.
I've heard a kind of a random question I didn't write down before, but I've heard a couple of panels like talking about how, it's just, working with boring brands. Like, I heard Liquid Death mentioned a couple of times, done a great job with water. Yeti doesn't have that problem, right? Yeah, it doesn't seem to have a problem in terms of being, not boring. Does that kind of set the bar higher for the brand to like try to find new exciting things? Does it become, if you're already an exciting brand, how do you move the needle further than that to beat out the competition?
I think that's the hardest thing as a creative. I think that's what we're challenged with every day. It really is truly a practice. It's never just like one idea, boom, you're done. The amount of iteration that we're doing is really incredible. It is almost like a mini agency in a lot of ways. What I love about it too is nobody's really bringing egos, so ideas are really coming from all over the place, and you're really able to kind of have that open poll. But I think that really does drive bigger, better ideas. So I've been really surprised and happy with that.
Shifting into just a bit of advice for the audience and other marketers, like with a little bit of focus on technology as a creative designer. Any recommendations or suggestions? Feel free to mention Celtra. But in all reality, is there anything that you would recommend to other brands that are starting to integrate technology into their creative process?
Yeah, well, Celtra has been an amazing partner. They really allowed us to scale creativity in a way that still keeps so much of our brand. The rich media formats that we're able to use with you guys have been absolutely incredible. But generally, I would just say to just try and lean in and not to be afraid of new technology, new markets, but also, of course, having a bar and making sure that you're meeting your true, authentic brand.
Cool. I've got two quick questions for you, then I'll open up to the audience too if anything's there. Bit random, but thinking, I was thinking about the Bear partnership. Is there a certain particular partnership you would be excited to work on from a creative standpoint? Kind of broad question, but anything come to mind?
Well, I'm already really happy because we have a lot of partnerships, or Jimmy Chin is one of our ambassadors, who's an incredible mountaineer alpinist. So my scratch is already kind of, I got it, in the bag. I get to see all these amazing ambassadors that are doing great things out in the mountaineering community, and it makes me really proud and makes me geek out all the time.
Nice. Yeah, I know you invited your husband here as well. And I know you guys are both avid, I know you were ice climbing last week too. So
tried some ice climbing.
Very on brand.
Trying to get my Conrad anchor mind in.
Last question for me is just around, I know you're not working on the product team at Yeti, but 50 years from now, if Yeti was making a cool product, what would it be? What's a futuristic Yeti project?
Oh gosh. I think it would be cool if we did something with vehicles.
With what?
Vehicles.
With vehicles?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there a way that we could integrate with vehicles somehow with our pool keeping capacities? I know that some vehicles have cooler spaces in them, but how could we get into that? It'd be kind of neat.
I like it. Very cool. That's it on my questions. Anything from the audience for Melissa? Hi, Dennis from Cedar and Cactus Marketing, also Austin-based. Just wanted to ask how when you're working on one brand, especially now that you're with Yeti for so long, how you keep your ideas fresh, as seasons grow and as your team grows and as you're using so much output on one brand, how do you stay fresh in that creative process specifically?
Yeah, it gets challenging. I feel like there's always seasons to creatives. Sometimes we're really creative, and other times you're digging at the bottom of the barrel trying to find something. But I would say I think collaboration is probably something that we're blessed with internally. You can really collaborate with anybody on the team, and we have just such a powerhouse of talent. Going and talking to someone else who's maybe not working specifically on the project that you're working on, and asking them for their opinions, and not being afraid of getting feedback from multiple different places within the company is a great way to start. I also feel like trying new things. Sometimes when we're presenting, we may go off script a little bit. Maybe we use type in a new way, or we present a newer idea. Those things, and it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to get killed, but kind of making sure that you're always just like poking a little bit. I think it starts to open up people's minds and gets people dreaming a little bit, even though maybe it's not right at the moment, but you could see yourself going there eventually.
Hi there, John Bowen with Razorfish. I've heard a few conversations this week just around building trust and brand building and retention in audiences. A lot of that is centered around measurement, but from your creative process, how are you thinking around loyalty and trust with your customer?
I think we're kind of lucky that the creative department isn't measured too much in that sense. I think our brand building in the creative department really comes from that space of if we're staying authentic to the brand, and that's really how they're measuring the work that we're doing. Is that okay?
I think it's kind of one I didn't think about before, but so you're essentially saying that, there's less stress on your side in terms of actual measurement and results, and really about, are we staying on brand and are we pushing the right message? Are we improving visually?
Yes.
Not too much pressure on the measurement.
Yeah, and that's been a really refreshing thing, especially coming from like agency side. I feel like our marketing department really exists because they want the brand to keep getting deeper, putting in its roots, expanding in an authentic way.
No, it's interesting because we do a lot in the shoppable ads, and obviously when you're doing shoppable ads, you're looking for an outcome. But, I guess from your perspective, is it really just making sure you're building assets for that environment, but you're, again, not getting a lot of pressure on what those results are?
Yeah, building assets, but I think that those assets, we've really been able to they're very colorful. We're using our content in them. We're able to put those videos in. I think making sure that they look really beautiful and they look premium, just as we want to see our brand, is our jobs, our number one.
Well, I mean, it's great when you have a non-boring brand, so you
Yes.
focus on colors. But I think it's an interesting message, and we'll kind of close out on the comment. But it was just around, everyone is always so focused on viewability and outcomes and metrics, but a lot of these major brands are thinking about how can we make an impactful, beautiful creative, and sometimes something beautiful is all you need.
Yeah.
Melissa, thank you for spending Saturday with us.
Thank you so much.
Happy International Women's Day.
Thank you.